Hi everyone, and welcome to blog 21 of the Tackle the Feelings Before the Behaviour parenting approach. And today's blog is going to be entitled, Should I Use the Cry It Out method? And this is a method that a lot of parents will be familiar with, whether they use it or don't, or are in the process of debating whether or not to use it. It's about trying to get your children to sleep through the night or sleep for longer periods at night. And this is a big issue because it's so exhausting. New parenthood, or when you've got a little one in the home, maybe you've got two, and you really just want a bit more sleep. And so this seems like a very appealing, effective method to use, where you systematically or gradually build your child up where they're crying, but you're not going to attend to them. You're letting them basically self-soothe and fall back to sleep, cry themselves back to sleep. And so inherently they learn that they can't just get you to come every time that they call, that they must go to sleep on their own. Or what, just so that they can learn that this is not how it works, and we sleep through the night. Mum and dad aren't there at your disposal to come every half an hour to tend to you. And that's basically the message. No parent does this with the intention to harm their child. No parent does this easily, I don't believe. I think it's very difficult for parents to leave their children distressed and crying. It's not fun. But it does have merit and benefits because it works. But what I want to say today is that it is quite harmful. And now this is my opinion, my educated opinion, and my approach is all about attachment and emotional regulation. So I'm going to go from that standpoint. And a lot of people might disagree with me, professionals included. And so I want you to listen to my blog with an open mind and make the decision for yourself based on your own opinions and what you feel is right for you and your child. But this is something that is quite black and white for me. I believe it is harmful. So hear me out. So the first thing I want to say is that something that I think we need to encourage more of in parenting is to trust your gut. Because we are built with maternal and paternal instincts. And those instincts are our best guide. Our reactions and how we feel about a situation is our best guide. And in this day and age, with online resources and books and professionals and everyone coming at you, and not to mention you go to mothers groups or you go and you meet up with other parents and everyone's got an opinion. People who don't have children have an opinion, and it's very difficult to navigate what you think is right. And a lot of the time you are going to look at professional opinions and advice, and the problem is that no one's really agreeing. People say different things. People say yes to cry it out method, but different times of when you should do it and how often and how long you leave the child to cry. And so you end up fumbling around, not really knowing what the right thing to do is, and basing this on whether you think this particular person is the right person for you. So, and my blog will be the same. So my number one message here is trust your gut. And something I want to tell you about cry it out is that when you're letting your child cry it out, what is your first reaction? Because most people will tell you this is so difficult. It's so incredibly difficult to hear your child in distress and not want to go and tend to them. The reason it's difficult is because you should be going to attend to them. That is your natural instinct. And children have a lot of different reasons for why they cry it out. But one thing that you need to understand is that babies up until age 6 or even later, they don't have the brain development to rationalize anything, to think about anything. They don't have cognitions. So where we process things in thought, and we can think about this and that, and we can understand that if someone leaves the room, they're going to come back, and things like that. Babies, certainly not babies or young toddlers, they don't know that. If you leave, they don't have the comprehension, the skills mentally to understand that you're going to come back. So that is very frightening. So they run on a felt sense. They run on their emotional guidance systems. And they don't have the thinking for what's going on for them. They just feel. And they run on instinct. And their instinct is mainly around survival. So they know instinctively that if someone doesn't tend to them, if someone doesn't feed them, change their nappy, clean them, love them, that they will die. They know that. So it's a real anxiety. It's not a made-up anxiety. When you aren't attending, or when they're hungry and you're not reading the early signs and they get to the point of crying, the reason they're at the point of crying is because they are expressing their fear and their need to you. So you need to learn how to read your child, trust your gut, and that is your best indicator of what they need before they start talking, before they have brain development to communicate with you verbally. You need to read them physically and in all their little mannerisms and everything that they're doing. And the number one form of distress or indicator that something is wrong is when they're crying. And so I've recently done a blog on attention-seeking behavior, and this is a fear with parents, that they learn that works. Well, that is true to an extent, but even with attention-seeking behavior, they are needing to get a need met, an emotional need met, or a physical need met. So by ignoring and dismissing them, which inherently is what cried out is, you are not attending to their needs, which creates fear in the child. That creates an anxiety. And that, with a really young child who cannot process that fear, doesn't have the tools and the brain development to rationalize and make sense and compartmentalize what's a real danger, what's not a real danger, that creates trauma. It creates emotional trauma. And many of us today are going around with that emotional trauma, and it's coming out in various ways. And depending on how you're parented later on and what other experiences you have and your personality and where you've been attended to as a baby outside of that, is all dependent on how bad these implications can be. Because we need that attachment between our primary caregiver and us as children. Before the age of 8 are your most important years. That's where all your damage gets done, between under age 8. Under 4 is even more pivotal because there isn't that brain development, those cognitions, those thoughts, and you don't have the tools and resources to make sense of the world. You need guidance. You need protection. You need someone to take care of all your needs, from physical right through to emotional, mental, spiritual. Spiritual is emotional. You you need those needs met by someone. And trust is very important. Consistency is incredibly important. And you're giving your child the message that you're not always going to be there. When you're asking them to self-soothe, they will learn those skills. But that has implications. That has implications on trust in the world, trust in you, that relationship between you. Children learn how to love themselves through that love from you. That translates to children: I am wrong, I'm not worthy of this love, I don't have that sense of belonging. And so if you think about the emotion behind why they're crying, whatever the need is, they're crying because they are afraid. There is fear there that their needs aren't going to be met. Survival needs, which are the most important needs, and so which include emotional needs. And so that creates that trauma. So when your child is upset, what do you need to do? Tend to the fear, tackle the fear. And the best way to do this, rather than ignoring and dismissing, is to attend to the fear, to acknowledge something's going on for my child. And a lot of young children, when they are teething, They are actually in pain. Their temperature, you need to check. Are they too hot, too cold? What's going on for them? Has there been a change to the routine? It can be really little. But for a child, this change, because they can't process it, creates that fear. So when we are dealing with fear, it's reassurance, not less love, not less attention. We want to be giving more attention. And we want to be doing preparation work during the day. We want to nut out those routines, try to do certain things at the same time each and every day, giving a lot of reassurance, a lot of love, a lot of your presence, really working on that relationship, that attachment. And the more secure a child feels, the more relaxed they're going to be, the calmer they're going to be, the more comfortable they're going to be. And when they're comfortable, they're not going to wake up screaming and crying. And things like waking up regularly during the night, that whittles down. That's a phase that you have to wear, unfortunately, if you've got a partner or live in a community where there are more than one person helping with the child. That's so much easier. If you're a single parent, this is going to be a very tough time for you. So you need to look after yourself. You need to put things in place. You need to give yourself a break from time to time. You need to plan ahead, because crying out, leaving your child to cry it out, is going to create more problems. And you're going to see this in clingy behavior and behavioral issues and not wanting to go to sleep in the first place. There's going to be a ripple effect of things that go wrong based on that fear. You might find yourself an overly cautious child or a really anxious child and wonder why. It's just their personality. Oftentimes it's not. It's because they're not feeling emotional safety and stability, which are the associated things linked with fear. So when you are tending to fear, you need to reassure. You need to create safety. And creating safety is with young children, structure, routine, putting those wings out so your child can explore safely, containment. Try to limit the changes or really attend to those changes and give extra attention and explain. Use your voice, calming, soothing. Get creative. Do they need fluffy toys? Do they need extra blankets, or do they need more cuddles? What is it that they need? If you've been on holiday and you're going back to work, you need to work out how to get your child back into the routine, knowing full well that there is going to be fear and anxiety there, because that is unprocessed for them. They need your guidance, they need your protection. So crying it out, dismissing that, even when it's crocodile tears, even when it's wanting your attention, they're wanting your attention for a reason, and the reason is the emotion of fear. Sorry. So when you're tending to fear, it's more reassurance. Don't leave a child to self-soothe. They will develop coping mechanism after coping mechanism, and the last thing you want is a child who is overly dependent on you or learn so much to self-soothe that they don't know how to let anybody in, and they don't process their emotions, and they end up with things like depression and anxiety later on. Both that. If they are too clingy, that's anxiety. Sorry, I'm a bit sick. Self-soothing, that often can lead down to depression. So there are alternatives, and the alternatives are your presence, emotional regulation, and really working on attachment. So I hope that's been helpful. Ask questions if you need to. Thanks. Bye.